It's me Rahul. Here in this video, I'm going to show you guys how the 3D printer works, what the main parts are, how to 3D print from start to finish, and basically just an introduction to 3D printing video for beginners or the people who wants to learn. So let's get right into it. What can be 3D printed? Basically anything you want. Basically any solid object you can print out, like features in the screen you can see: sunglass, a screw, a milk jug, a boat propeller. Pretty much any solid object you can print out. So you guys may know of some famous 3D printers like MakerBot or Ultimaker, and these printers are expensive, but they are really high quality, and they both are good for beginners, but they are probably too expensive for people to start out with. 3D printing process. This is the core of all 3D printing. Everybody follows this procedure in order to 3D print. So we always start out with a 3D CAD model, a 3-dimensional model on the computer of the object you want to print, and from there we export that model as a .stl file, stereolithography file, and from there we can import that STL file into our slicing software, and from there the slicing software we can edit the layers, the tool path, and the temperature and the color and how fast you want to print. Basically just edit what the printer is going to do, and from there we send that code that the slicer make into a .g code file off to the 3D printer. Click print. The printer make to our object that we made in the CAD model, or downloaded it online and create a 3-dimensional object. How do 3D printers works? There are two main types of 3D printing. There is FDM, which is the most popular one, fused deposition modeling, and SLI, which is stereolithography. So FDM printers the most popular because it's an addictive process. It is not that messy, it is not that hard to use, and uses filament, which is pretty cheap. So this prints at about 100 to 20 micron layer thickness. That is the lowest that most printers can go, which is really thin. You are getting it nice and smooth prints with FDM, and like I said, FDM is an additive process, so it uses a spool of filament plastic and is extrude that through a hot nozzle at 195 degrees Celsius or around that temperature, and it extruded through a cone shaped metal piece called the hot end, and extrude that into a really thin strand, and the printer moves it out in a 3-dimensional X, Y and Z planes and squishes those layers on the bed on top of each other. As you can see here, that's the most common type of 3D printing. The next type is SLI printing, which the layers aren't as thin, but you are still going to get amazing print quality because of less moving parts than FDM printer. So as you can see here, SLI printing use a projector or a laser to harden resins as a board platform moves up. So in SLI your print prints upside down actually, so it depends on what you want to print. SLI is also more expensive. FDM is cheaper, so that's why most people go with FDM printers. Different filament types. Most people print in PLA because it's less toxic and it have more color options, but there is also ABS, which is what they make Legos. It's a harder, tougher plastic, which is also hard to print. There is nylon filament, there is carbon fiber, there is TP, which is flexible, there is wood metal and dark PVA. These are the basic types of low-cost consumer-graded 3D printer. These are riprap printers on the left. Here, as you can see, it's an addictive process. The big metal part in the middle is the extruder, and the blue tape is the bed. In the middle here we have a delta printer, which is still FDM, but it uses 3 motors and 3 carriages to move the nozzle around and up and down on a circular bed. So that bed is usually a little bit smaller than the RAK printer. It's about 6 inches in diameter. On the far right we have an SLA printer. These are most expensive, but the quality is lot better, but they don't have as many materials as FDM printers and color options. There are 2 ways you can find models. You can either make it in a CAD software or download it online, which I'll get to later. So my favorite CAD software and most popular one in 3D printing industry are Google SketchUp, Inventor, Fusion 360, etc. These are really easy softwares. You can export that STL file to send to your slicer software, and they are really easy for beginners. You can learn a lot of tutorials online. They are all around great CAD software, so I really recommend them. How to find models online? This is what a lot of people do for just a quick modeling. There is Thingiverse, which is the most popular one, and myminifactory.com. Then most people will use these. Just find quick models. They can download them directly as an STL file, send them to the slicer software, and print out object you would like. In Thingiverse and my mini site, we have almost any object you can think of. So I will definitely recommend going there first instead of making your own in your CAD software. There are many different slicing softwares, and I just listed 3 heroes. The most common one is MakerBot Desktop. It is a slicer software for MakerBot printer. Next is Cura software, which is for Ultimaker, and then Simplified 3D, which is commonly used for RAK printers. File types and slicing types. So as I said, you are going to import your STL file into your slicer software, and your slicing software is going to export it as a .g code, which we will send it to the printer. But MakerBot uses .makerbot file type, but they are both basically the same. They are ones and zeros, binaries that tells the print head exactly where to go. So it says go 20 spaces this way, 4 spaces that way down, 10 spaces pretty much like that. Extruders. There is single and dual extruders on printers. Sometimes there are more than 2, but mostly 1 or 2 print heads. So extruder is like, these are only on STM printers because they are an additive process and extrude the filament out of the nozzle. So similar series can only print in 1 material type, but dual can print in 2 material types, as you can see on the right. So the dual one has 2 tips, and here as an example can print black and white at the same time. So your model can have 2 colors, which is really cool. So bed type, heated beds. So most 3D printers should have heated beds, which helps the material stick to them. Better won't pop off in the middle of the print. So there is glass beds and painters tape beds. Glass beds have a nicer bottom surface, but painters tape beds are usually able to stick the print down easier, and you can replace the painter's tape. Infill is how much plastic is inside of your model. So I recommend anywhere from 10 to 35% infill, but you can go up to 100% or down to 0. 0 will have nothing inside of your print, and 100 will have pretty much solid. So I would like to show you some of the 3D printed samples which I have been printed at our school using the school facility. The 3D printer we used is Ultimaker 3, and the slicing software is Cura. Let's watch it.